I'm bi-curious. What does that mean? I'm curious about the things I buy. Should I spend money on them? Should I not spend money? Should you spend money on them? Well, I'm starting a new show? I guess I'm going to call it a show, called Bi-Curious with Master Chaos. And now, first of all, I should say, I do apologize if anybody is sexually bi-curious. I don't mean to offend anybody at all. This is, of course, only referencing bi-curious. You get it. As long as we're all on the same page, let's continue. I've got some screeners from Arrow to talk about, and I'm going to give you my 2 cents, because I have a feeling you're bi-curious.
Back from the dead.
Okay, my bi-curious pal, let's talk Arrow. These have been out for a while, but I've been making my movie and I haven't had a chance to get to them, so let's get to them now. How about that? Let's start off with, they sent me sort of a ruined Emery case, but that's not a big deal. It's a screener. I'm not going to complain too much. Let's talk about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein from the one, the only Kenneth Branagh, who is probably the guy with the biggest ego in Hollywood. I've never met him, but he's probably a nice guy. He makes good movies. But he's got to have the biggest ego in Hollywood. Not only did he write and direct it, but he is playing Frankenstein. The guy, not the monster. Remember, the monster's just the monster. He's playing Frankenstein.
That's Frankenstein.
And he does a good job, but the problem with the movie is, Frankenstein runs 2 hours and 3 minutes. My father loved this movie, and I'm not sure if he knows it's on 4K, so I'm probably going to send this to him when I'm done. As for me, I was never in love with this movie, and it wasn't until I rewatched it that I could put my finger on it. There's a falseness to the performances here. There's almost a disingenuous sheen to the whole thing. I mean, I realize you're dealing with a period piece here, but it never feels real or natural or believable in any way. And I could argue that period pieces, the best ones, do feel lived in. Everything here feels manufactured and not necessarily organic, which is funny when you're talking about a Frankenstein movie. But to me, it feels like we're watching a play, and most people say that there's an immediacy to the art form of theater, but I never found that. I found plays very stagey and static and honestly very dull. There's no doubt that Kenneth Branagh is an amazing actor and filmmaker, but this particular project feels like a vanity piece. I don't remember Colin Clive in the original Frankenstein needing to be shirtless and sweaty as he brings his creation to life. There's an artful way to tell the Frankenstein story, and a realistic way even. But this approach is so ham-fisted and cringy that honestly I couldn't help but roll my eyes at almost every scene. I hate when this happens, but it felt like I was watching a script and not a genuine piece of art. I mean, the fact that Frankenstein uses electric eels to bring the monster to life should tell you that this version is a little goofy. The only one in the movie who feels genuine is Robert De Niro as the Frankenstein monster. There's real pathos there and humanity, and the makeup certainly helps establish him as a unique creation, beyond the Boris Karloff look. But then Frankenstein kills a little boy and frames an innocent woman for the murder, and the creature officially becomes a monster, and one that we can no longer sympathize with. And that was an interesting choice. I don't remember that happening in the book, but it's been a while since I've read it. 2 things are for certain. Number 1, this was an unnecessary movie. Number 2, Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein is really fucking bad at stitches. Special features wise, you get a brand new audio commentary by film historians Michael Brook and Johnny Maines. You get a brand new interview with composer Patrick Doyle. Then a brand new interview with costume designer James Atchison, as well as a brand new interview with makeup designer Daniel Parker. Then a brand new documentary featurette on the origins and evolution of the Frankenstein story, as well as a ton of other brand new featurettes. The coolest thing on here, and the coolest Frankenstein thing on here, is you get the first adaptation of Frankenstein from 1910 from the Edison Film Company. You get to watch that silent short film. It's amazing, and it's wonderful, and it's a real piece of cinema history, cinema horror history that you should watch, and certainly I think the best special feature on here. The movie overall, like I said, just feels so false to me that I could not get into it. It just felt like I was watching a really overwrought play and nothing really worth exploring or recommending. So if you're curious about this one, my rating's going to be 2 stars for Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. It just didn't work for me. It just didn't work for me. But I know my dad loved this movie, so 4K heading his way. Next up, Baby Duck. This movie, 12 Monkeys, is one that I was never a big fan of. I remember I was there opening night. I saw it with my friends. We were so excited. Oh man, Bruce Willis in some kind of science fiction movie. Let's check this out. And it just never blew me away. But I'm happy to report, upon this rewatch, I've changed my tune. 12 Monkeys runs 2 hours and 9 minutes. This is one of the most interesting time travel movies ever made. Terry Gilliam's film is convoluted and confusing, but it's all to serve a purpose. It's designed to make us feel like we're crazy, so we can sympathize with Bruce's character on his wild journey to save 5 billion people. Bruce Willis is a convict in the future that is sent back in time just to stop a terrorist group from unleashing a virus that wipes out almost all of mankind. What follows is a series of sequences that are designed to unhinge and unnerve us and keep us on our toes, which they do. I'm going to be real with you, this is probably Bruce Willis's greatest performance, and definitely one of Brad Pitt's most memorable character turns, which is saying a lot. It's not a big action movie, and there are times where the story does slow down and lose its edge, but the film is really all about the big picture, and thanks to Gilliam wanting to play nice with the studios, we get the clearest picture ever of his cinema. This is a low-key Brazil when it comes to Gilliam's works, but the tightly constructed plot delivers the goods. 12 Monkeys does come with a slip. I should show you that. Pretty nice. I'm not sure if that's still available. I think the Frankenstein one did too, but I didn't get one. Here's the inside of the 12 Monkeys packaging. You get the blue disc. I'm sorry, 4K. 4K. I didn't get. I'm sure there's a Blu-ray version, but I got the 4K version of it. You get a nice little booklet. Look at that. I think that's very cool. Pictures and the like. I mean, it's a pretty extensive little book, but it's mostly pictures, I would say. It's about a little over 40 pages. It's mostly pictures, but you do get some writing as well. Great stuff. You do get Nathan Rabin and Ian Christie providing some essays for you in this packaging. Fantastic. The movie is quite a surprise. Honestly, in my mind, for some reason, I had written this off. I'm like, I didn't like 12 Monkeys. It just didn't work for me. Rewatching now, I realize how deep and interesting the film really is. And honestly, I watched it when I was a teenager, so it maybe just didn't hit me. But fuck, this is a really goddamn good movie. As far as time travel goes, it's really interesting. Really interesting stuff. And one that I think definitely bears a rewatch and a restoration and a revisit here. Like, this is a movie that's worth your time coming back to. So I do recommend it. Let's talk about the special features real quick. Here you get an audio commentary with Terry Gilliam and producer Charles Roven. You get a feature-length making-of documentary by Keith Fulton and Louise Pepe. They also made Lost in La Mancha, I believe. You get the film exchange with Terry Gilliam, a 1996 interview with Gilliam and critic Jonathan Romney, recorded at the London Film Festival. And then an appreciation by Ian Christie, author of Gilliam on Gilliam, which I do recommend you watching. It really helps you understand the movie and absorb it a little better. This is a kick-ass little movie that I think deserves your attention. If you've missed it, or if you haven't watched it in a while, do track it down and give it another watch, or pick up the disc here. The 4K and Blu-ray will be available, or is available. I'm assuming. I don't know if it's sold out, to be honest. But watch it is what I'm saying. 4 stars, 12 Monkeys. I really dug it. And it's one that I think I would revisit. And I'm definitely going to be watching with Mistress Chaos because she's a big time travel movie fan. And I don't know if she's actually seen this one. But, man, Bruce Willis kills it. Brad Pitt kills it. And Gilliam killed it. I mean, this is definitely his most studio-friendly movie. But, goddamn, it's good.
Thanks for the advice.
Now let's talk karate kicks, or in this case, stick hits, stick moves. I don't know what you would call it. Stick punches? I guess you wouldn't call it stick punches. Anyway, 8 diagram pull fighter here from Arrow. Comes with a slip. I'm not sure if this is sold out or not, but it's a nice little, I mean, you know, it's a paper slip. It's not necessarily thick or anything, but this is the packaging on this one. This is a Blu-ray only, but you do get a booklet. I'm going to pull this out for you. You get a reversible slip on this as well. Here is the packaging. Look at that big face. Big face! Who is that? Oh, that's, yeah, I'm blanking on his name now. Alexander Fusheng, who, we'll talk about in a minute. But anyway, here's the booklet. Give you a little, there's a table of contents. You get one essay by Terrence J. Brady. This is a very interesting film. Let's talk about the plot. 8-diagram pole fighter runs 1 hour and 39 minutes. There is a lot happening in this movie, especially in the top-heavy beginning, so don't try to make sense of it. Just let the hundreds of people hitting each other with sticks wash over you. Let me start by saying that 8-diagram pole fighter means nothing. As a matter of fact, that name is never used in the movie, so I don't know why it's even referenced in the title. This plot-heavy movie is about a royal family battling against the Mongol horde. 6 brothers go up against the Mongol horde, and only 2 of them survive, these being Gordon Liu and Alexander Fu Sheng. Gordon Liu retreats to a monastery to learn how to fight with sticks, and Fu Sheng returns home because the battle has driven him into mental illness. Sadly, though, this is Alexander Fu Sheng's final film, as he died in a car crash during the making of this movie, and as such, mysteriously disappears from the plot halfway through the movie. Loosely based on a true story from Chinese legend, the story of the Yang family versus the Mongol horde isn't necessarily all about stick fighting, like you might imagine. Gordon Liu's training is a little odd and disjointed, as the monks at the monastery only practice on wolf statues, and their goal is to rip the teeth out of wolves, but not necessarily kill anybody. This doesn't really play into the plot at all, except towards the end, where the stick fighting involves ripping people's teeth out, but I honestly was expecting wolves to show up at some point. However, they do not. Overall, this is kind of an odd movie. As an action movie, it's great and the fights are fantastic and dynamic, but the plot is so weird that it's hard to say whether it was a good movie or not. So all I will say is the final film was enjoyable, but head-scratching at the same time. I would call myself a Shaw Brothers fan, appreciator. I don't blindly love everything they've put out. If you've followed me to the Shaw Scope box set, there's some really good stuff in there, but a lot of that stuff is padding, which I'm not a fan of. And honestly, I'm so sick and tired of the fucking training sequences in these movies that I feel are just eating up time for no reason. I'm a big fan of plot. I want a plot. I want a reason. I want things to happen for a reason. Here, the story is so odd because the brothers disappear. They separate. One goes crazy from fighting, and another one heads to a monastery to become a monk. And the monks are like, no, go away. We don't want you to be a monk. And they're like, no, I want to be a monk. And they're like, no, go away. We don't want you to be a monk. And he says, no, but I want to be a monk because I want to learn how to fight with sticks. What is happening? What are you talking about? Anyway, the movie doesn't work. Special features-wise, you get a commentary track here by Jonathan Clemens, author of A Brief History of China. You also get a newly filmed appreciation by film critic and historian Tony Raines, which is always amazing. Tony knows his shit. Then you get interviews with Gordon Liu, Lily Lee, and Yung Ching. Also, you get a tribute to Fu Sheng, a short film commemorating the late actor that played before every early screening of the 8-diagram pole fighter. Overall, it's not a terrible movie, but it's not the kind of movie you would expect with a name like this. You would think this would be like the ultimate pole fighting movie. Literally, he doesn't pole fight anybody till the third act. So maybe the last 15-20 minutes of the movie is pole fighting. The bulk of the movie is him trying to get into this goddamn monastery to learn to fucking fight with sticks. Then once he finally gets in there, it's just him hitting wolf statues. It's a very odd movie. It's a very odd action movie in general, but it's okay. So I'm going to go with 3 stars for the 8-diagram pole fighter. And I do believe the slip might still be available. I'm not sure. I would imagine things aren't selling out as fast as they used to. But if you're interested in getting it, those are my 2 cents. Just keep in mind, it's okay. But it's not a giant pole fighting movie. It's really more of a training movie, for better or worse.
I have a question for God. Why?
And there you go, my bi-curious pal. Those are my thoughts on these 3 titles from Arrow Films. I do want to thank MVD for sending these for review. I apologize for taking so long with them, but here you are. Here are my thoughts. I would say standout. 12 Monkeys, absolutely. At least a must-watch. If you don't want to buy the Blu-ray, it's fine. Find it somewhere streaming. I don't know if it's streaming or anything, but it's a really good movie. Definitely rewatch it, revisit it, or check it out if you haven't already. Very good stuff. And then I would put 8 Diagram as my number 2, and then lastly Frankenstein, which I felt was like watching a vanity play. Didn't work for me, but you know what, my dad likes it, so he's gonna get a Father's Day present from me. Which I guess the recording of this, Father's Day hasn't happened yet, but depending on when you watch, it probably hasn't happened. By the way, happy Father's Day to all you fathers out there. For now, let's call it a day. Thank you so much for joining me on this inaugural episode of By Curious. I hope you'll join me for more. I'm going to be changing it up, different labels and things like that. It'll be fun. It'll be a surprise whatever I drop on By Curious. Whenever an episode of that happens, I might have something from Vinegar Syndrome, maybe from Severin, Arrow, Kino. It'll be fun. We'll change it up a little bit. So in case you're curious about a certain title, check in with me, and I'll give you my 2 cents. And then, make up your own mind, of course. My friend, let's call it a day. I love you very much. Subscribe if you haven't already. Oh my God, look at that thing. Isn't that beautiful? Oh. Subscribe if you haven't already, because I'd love to hang out with you again and chat movies. My friend, this is a safe place. This is where we can all share our opinions. We can disagree, of course. That's what makes movies such a powerful art form, is the subjectivity of it. So I'm curious what your thoughts are. Leave your comments down below. For now, signing off.